welcome everyone to our Morningstar Ventures interview series, where we interview founders of our portfolio companies and also find out a little bit about, their projects, their ambitions within the crypto space, and also much, much more. We have Rushi with us today, who's the co-founder and CEO of Movement Labs. So Movement Labs, for those of you that don't know, is the first move EVM layer 2 on Ethereum, and it aims to make Ethereum a faster, cheaper, and safer place for users. And the project has also recently launched on Testnet, and you have already secured over $45 million in funding, I believe. And so we're very, very excited to dive into this project today, and also, Rushi, learn a little bit more about your story. So without further ado, I'd say we get started. Rushi, once again, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really happy to have you on this one-to-one interview. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Great to connect and super excited for the interview.
Super good. Yeah, same here. So what we usually always do is we get started with, a little casual round of introductions. So please, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and also what actually brought you to the crypto space.
So I would say I started engineering 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Um, I started my career in distributed systems, cybersecurity. And then from there, I would say around 4 years ago, 3 years ago, started building and engineering crypto. I was really interested in distributed systems and kind of Rust-based programming. So I got my career started in like Ethereum and Cosmos basic systems. And around November 2022 is when we started Movement. The general thesis was we had read about Move. Me and Cooper were both in college. We really loved the Move language, but wanted to see adopted on a larger scale. Wanted to see brought to Ethereum, the EVM. For those that aren't familiar, Move was built by Facebook and the DM project to be the fastest and most secure VM on the market. Every year, there's $4.5 billion lost in smart contract hacks, and Move was designed to bring that security to broader markets. So Movement is the first Move EVM layer 2 on Ethereum. I'm super excited for mainnet coming up and ecosystem projects also coming to market.
Yeah, great. How is the testnet going so far?
It's doing really well. So week one, we had 12 million transactions, 1.1 million wallets, one of the biggest testnets in recent history.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're not about to announce week two results, which are just as crazy. Um, And I think what's really interesting and unique is that if you go testnet.movement labs XYZ, it's not like your other testnets. It's
Mm-hmm.
not some developer documentation. It's a fully on-chain MMO where there's 40 apps live, not 40 fake apps, not 40 fake partnerships. It's 40 real apps for people to use, whether it's Link, which is actually in the call right now, Meridian, Echelon, some of our DeFi protocols, some of our games, etc. So we're super excited for people to actually use apps in a centralized manner where you can just go on the front end, check out all the apps, and have earn points, build up a Parthenon, etc.
Yeah, I really was quite intrigued about this whole Parthenon system because you really gamified your testnet, which is not something you often see, especially with like infrastructure projects. So on that topic, obviously, Movement Labs mission and thesis is all about making crypto obviously more accessible, especially in the Ethereum space. And I guess this is quite, a topic and a narrative in crypto right now. Everything from chain abstraction to just finding solutions to make bridging and restaking and all of that a little bit easier. So what really inspired you guys to make Movement different to all of the other solutions that are out there?
I think there's two main things. First is on the execution layer. We're bringing the Move VM, which is the main execution environment built by Aptos and Sui, designed for parallelization, which is the way to have high throughput transactions, as well as formal verification, which brings smart contract security to Ethereum. And beyond that, we have a decentralized shared sequencer. So the biggest issue with centralized sequencers right now is that they have downtime. There's not enough interop between L2s. It's the user experience is pretty poor. So with the decentralized shared sequencer, we have a move stack where teams can launch their own custom rollups, interop natively with the L2 itself, and have high throughput trading capacities. So imagine the fastest rollup, meaning the fastest rollup framework on chain.
So what you were saying a couple of barriers in the crypto space and how you guys are really going through this, but I think it would be interesting also probably just to take our listeners through, you know, your like three-part thesis, you know, your parallelization, decentralized sequencer, and also your the L2, so the M1 M2 part of it, and how that works, and how you're kind of like bringing this multi-token staking system together.
Yeah, so on a technical note, the biggest issue with shared sequencers is not transaction finality, it's state finality guarantees. So if I'm roll up A, let's say I'm Arbitrum, and you're Optimism, the biggest issue isn't achieving transaction finality between different rollups, it's achieving state finality, where sequencers and apps can guarantee that Arbitrum and Optimism and other rollups are being honest about their state. Right now, there's no way to do that. There's two ways to actually accomplish that in theory. One is through crypto economic state proofs, which are way too expensive and not ready yet. Second is economic interest. So imagine a world where roll-ups can have minimum stake, where if I'm Arbitrum, I'll put $1 million worth of Arbitrum. Optimism will put $1 million with OP. If any of us is lying about state, we get slashed. So it's actually one of the fundamental use cases of shared sequencers and of ADS designs, where when you have multiple tokens staking for a rollup, you're able to slash bad behavior. So that's kind of the thesis behind M1, where we're enabling this collective of rollups, and when rollups stake the token, they have to contribute X amount of token and be honest about state. If they're lying about state, they lose a minimum stake.
Great. So I just wanted to move on a little bit into your ecosystem, because you mentioned earlier that, for example, like you have 40 different apps on your testnet, and also one of them had dialed in, but you're also partnering with a lot of different companies. For example, you had like Covalent and OKX on your website. And then obviously also recently you have been working with Nexio, which is kind of doing a similar thing on the Bitcoin ecosystem. Can you elaborate just a little bit more on these, you know, collaborations, and how that really aligns with what you guys are doing and your vision? And also maybe talk a little bit about how these partnerships have allowed you guys to grow as a company.
Yeah, so one of the highlighting parts of us is our growth and marketing BE team. I think we've done a good job of assembling day zero partners such that there's a bunch of apps for people to use, a bunch of ecosystem projects, um, different infrastructure providers like RPCs, wallets. So because of the outreach and partners that we have, we just announced OKX wallets just integrated with us yesterday. We have 4 other wallets live. So there's a bunch of different UXs for people who want to use different tools for testnet, and then we have different APIs, different DEXs, lending protocols. So the fact of having this pretty well-rounded growth strategy is that we have a consortium of apps and infrastructure providers for people to use.
Okay, and how would like a partnership then dev like look like? How would you then integrate your technology into some of these companies, or what exactly is the setup there?
Can you repeat that? I think you cut out there a little bit.
Oh, sorry. So like what exactly could you give like more of a use case scenario of like how you would, for example, use your technology with one of these companies, or like how do the benefits kind of go together?
Yeah, so the way I would say it is like uh, the apps themselves were built on L2. So if I'm a DEX, a lending protocol, a yield aggregator, I'll build on the L2 itself. If I'm looking to build infrastructure like RPC provider, if I'm a wallet, I'll probably need to connect to the GitHub, like go to the GitHub, look to the repo, and then figure out how my app and my infrastructure connects to that. So for most apps using RPC, and you can deploy any kind of move smart contract or even a smart contract. For infrastructure providers, you probably need to dig through the code base and find out a solution that works for you.
Okay, understood. Speaking a little bit more about, you know, working with different projects and also chains. Obviously, you guys are on Ethereum, but I heard recently that you guys were potentially building also something with on Ton. What's going on there? Can you reveal anything?
Yeah, so we have a team looking to build move VMs on and bring Telegram apps to move. Particularly, Link is one of the apps or one of the teams that has been doing a lot of work with Telegram chatbots. So they're a really great team working on bridging the gap between mobile and move experiences. And yeah,
Okay, exciting. Where can we learn more about that? Are you planning to release anything more?
it's coming out in the next few weeks, so I can't say much.
Okay.
But you'll be able to use it in the next few weeks. Yeah.
Okay, nice. And yeah, obviously, I think also you've been rather vocal as a founder that you're also quite a fan of the Solana ecosystem, and
Yeah.
that you're kind of like, how do you say, waiting for the dust to clear with all of the infrastructure projects that are out there, and like just really having the top projects um, prevail. What's really exciting for you right now in maybe not just the space that you guys are in, but just like in the whole crypto space? What are some of the projects that you're looking at and you're thinking like, yes, these are the guys that are going to make the change, or you think, okay, these are some projects that we could potentially also have in our ecosystem in the future?
Yeah. So is it like, wait, are you referring to the ecosystem projects themselves?
Like, split the question in two. Like, first,
Yeah.
personally, which projects are you really excited about? And then the second
Okay.
one, like, what projects are you really excited about with your like CEO, co-founder hat on for Movement Labs?
Yeah, so I mean, watch my words. I don't want to king pick or pick my favorite here, but I'll focus on the net new projects that have interesting use cases because I think
Hmm.
that's the way to get around this. I really like Bracket, which is a fully on-chain prediction markets. The way they do sports betting or just any kind of events betting is they do bracket style competitions. So imagine like March Madness or the Cricket World Cup. You can bet on the entire bracket instead of individual competitions, which is pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Um, I think beyond that, I think Up Network is a mobile phone that has a mobile deepen project. So imagine movement phones launched with the wallets natively. So Up Network is a team kind of focused on that. Um, and yeah, I think Seekers Alliance is another on-chain MMO that allows you to collect cards for trading on the app. And then I think some cool DeFi protocols, like obviously Meridian is a great DEX lending protocol, staking protocol. Echelon's doing a good job with lending markets. We're really excited about them. And then Henry's the last one shout out, which is really focused on bringing commerce to crypto. So every time you
Hmm.
shop on like Amazon, shop on like eBay, Walmart, etc., you earn movement points and Henry points to get rewarded for shopping. So it's one of the things where you don't even know you're using crypto,
Yeah.
and it just happens in the back end. So excited to be working with Henry and the team there.
Oh, cool. It's kind of like, what is that? Like honey,
Yep, it's honey
honey,
for crypto. Yeah,
honey for crypto. Nice. Yeah, that's as a fellow shopaholic, or like as a shopaholic, that's a difficult one for me to use, but I do think it's a really great use case. And like you said, the whole, I mean, the thing that's really going to drive adoption is people
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
not realizing that they are using crypto. That's why I think like Deepin is, for example, like a really cool kind of use case for that. And obviously gaming as well, they're doing a really great job in bringing like non-crypto natives into the space. So nice. Yeah, really curious to see how that that commerce project turns out. Yeah, I also just wanted to, I was curious to hear a little bit more on your view about community, because you recently released an article, or I guess kind of like a thought piece on your view between community and insiders, and also if they can both have it all. And your view was, they could. Can you kind of elaborate your view on community? Perhaps also touch on the piece that you wrote, and also why it's so important for Movement Labs.
yeah. So I think in the past, I can learn. Oh no, in the past we haven't seen a good amount of community development because you have all these high float, low FTV launches, and not the ability to actually reward the community. Um, Same thing with like Solana. With Solana, when Solana first launched, it launched like very low price, and obviously people were able to buy early and then launch. And then as time went on, they were able to make a lot of money from the actual price action. With current launches in the recent history, that hasn't been able to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing that we're working on trying to explore is how do you get community involvement at an earlier level, whether that's Discord participants, whether it's Twitter participants, rewarding folks for joining the system, participating, and being a core contributor to the moving system. So we're still rolling out, we're still thinking through the best strategy to do that, still working with a few partners, but we're actively working on incentivizing the community and making sure the community is part of the upside.
Right. And so this like forum structure that you suggested in the article, are you guys already testing this?
Not yet. I would say we're still looking at it and still thinking through it, and still working with a few other partners and team members. I would say that other teams have tried to do something similar, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't usually end well. So still trying to talk with a few folks.
Okay. Yeah, for everyone that's listening, this was actually a very interesting article. It's on Rushi. I think it's pinned to your page or it's at the top of your
Yep.
page. Definitely an interesting one to read. I think it gives a good, yeah, it gives a good overview of kind of how retail investors or the community views sometimes the injustice of the insiders or the investors, the benefits that they get because they're kind of the investors and maybe seen as the main stakeholders, but you're really arguing that the community is the biggest stakeholder when it comes to your project, and I couldn't agree more. So definitely, what are some, apart from that, like what are some, like initiatives or kind of incentive programs that you're doing for your community?
Yep. So one thing about our testnet, you can check it out,
Mm-hmm.
is that it's called a Parthenon testnet. So you have 40 plus apps. You have ability to track leaderboards or how involved you are. Uh, so one thing that we're really trying to do is emphasize uh, if you're an active user, how do you filter the folks that are farmers versus organic users, etc. So we have a few different criteria that we're working on. First, the builders. So if you're building on the chain, actively contributing to innovating, that's a category. If you're like Spartan, which is one of the guilds, those are users that use the apps on the testnet, like on-chain Quest. If you're a creator, that's about content, making memes, making articles, etc. And then if you're like we have other guilds that focus more on joining different communities. So I think our guild system is very interesting where no matter what you're interested in or what your background is, maybe you don't want to do on-chain quests, maybe you just want to make memes. You
Mm-hmm.
can still submit those as quests with our questing platform. So we're looking to reward and support everyone, regardless of if you're um, if you're looking to farm on-chain or off-chain.
Okay, interesting. So basically from all of like all use cases and depending on which developer you're kind of on, development side you're on, it's yeah, it's
Yeah.
welcoming. So that's great. And how has the feedback been then on that?
It's been pretty good. Honestly, I'd say like it was a big project and like it took a lot of manpower
Mm-hmm.
internally. I think one thing that we could have done better to start off with is have like a quality control gate because when we launched, we had too many apps. Like we had so many apps, we had so many
Right.
quests. So it was a little bit confusing for some folks. But then we took the time. Like I was constantly tweeting like once an hour. I think at one day I tweeted 22 times in a day, which is ridiculous. But I think it's just like listen to community feedback, and we kept listening. We're like, okay, these quests don't make sense. So, for example, like some of our partner apps had joined Discord quests or like use earn Discord roles. We didn't know that. We didn't see that, but the apps did that because of the permissionless system. We heard
Right.
the feedback, and we're like, okay, this probably doesn't make that much sense. And then talked to the teams, removed it, and asked the teams not to do that. So that kind of feedback we had no way of really knowing until we launched it. But if we could go back, we probably have some more quality control to start. But I think regardless, it was a very good feedback, very good launch, got a lot of momentum. And I think now it's a good spot where people are happily questing. We did feedback for the first few days, and now it's a spot where it's very stable.
That's great. Yeah, and what's also really cool is you guys didn't really do like the cookie cutter testnet launch, which what a lot of infrastructure projects do, kind of like decks and then the bridge, and
Yep.
you guys really came out with something very interactive, which is great. I think you kind of already touched upon it for your testnet in terms of what you would have done differently and also some of the challenges. What were some of the challenges apart now from the testnet? And obviously, I can imagine now also going to mainnet, there's a lot of challenges. But what were some of your like first initial challenges when you founded Movement Labs?
Yeah, I think when we first started off, we were just two college kids in the dorm room. We didn't have um, the PhD or the ex-Google background or
Yeah.
the fancy reputation, and we launched a week after. We started the week after FTX collapsed. So
Oh,
imagine the worst market possible
yeah.
with no brand recognition. So to be honest, when we first started off, it was really difficult. Cooper sold his car to pay our first engineering team because we couldn't afford engineers. And the first few months was really difficult.
Hmm.
But I think we kept building, just kept shipping, kept networking. And then around ECC last year, not this year, but last year, we met our pre-seed investor, Dow 5, which kind of put us in the first tranche. And then from there, it was an uphill battle, just always being an underdog, always working hard. And now the team has grown radically. We're like 40 deep now, which is crazy because started off it's me and Cooper in like a moldy World War II dorm room. And now it's like we're based in San Francisco and have a really great team, and super excited for the future.
And I mean, it's not like you did this in 5 years. You did this in like a year and a half. So
Yep.
great work.
Yep.
How has the support from your investors been, or from the VCs that you're working with?
We're fortunate to have really helpful and hands-on VCs. Um, like they kind of trust me in that do like they're like you can do whatever you want. We trust you as a founder. So most of the VCs that we have on our cap table really believe in me and the team and the vision. But I think like the role of VC, and I tweet about this, is to be there as a therapist. Like I think our team is very talented. We kind of know what we need to do over the next 3 to 4 months and beyond that years. But I think the main role is like when stuff happens, when there's like FUD or someone says bad things or like the market nukes, having someone to talk to and be like, here's what's happening, here's what we're going through. What do you
Hmm.
think? And that kind of counts. It's more counsel, I'd say. That's really where investors are useful. If investors are kind of hands on, I would say it's relatively bearish because the founder needs hand holding.
Right.
I think we're at a point where we're growth stage. We have a pretty talented team, so anything we really need is mostly internal. But sometimes there's like market conditions and exchanges and stuff like that that maybe be more external.
Yeah, they're like parents, right? It's like it's
Yep.
fine if everything's fine. If the kid doesn't call from the sleepover and wants to get picked up, kind of way. Um, but yeah, so in terms of like all of the challenges, and obviously also working with so many projects, and also with a lot of really great top tier VCs, I'm guessing there's a lot of founders out there also who are like either just starting up, or are a little bit more of in a growth phase versus a scale up phase. What are like give us 3 pieces of advice that you would tell these founders while starting up their crypto specific business?
It's a good question. Um, I'll start with first is be prepared to eat shit.
Hmm.
Crypto is a very, very volatile industry. You can be at the top of the world one day and then be at the bottom of the world tomorrow. And simultaneously, you can be at the bottom of the world one day and be at the top of the world in a month.
Right.
So if you're in crypto, you have to be a little bit off the rocker. You have to be ready for volatile environments, and just be ready to like go through the trenches. Like when we started, it was like 8 months of every VC telling us that we were too young, that the idea makes sense, the move was dead. And today we're one of the biggest protocols in the space. So that was like 1 year turnaround time. So we're super proud of that. But man, that took a lot out of me.
Hmm.
Secondly, I think is trust your team. I think that one of the biggest, I tweeted about this yesterday actually, it's one of the biggest issues that founders run into is that they overhire, especially once they raise, and then becomes like bureaucratic where you have like all these different levels of organization, and then you kind of lose the touch of an early stage startup, which is a small group of gritty folks and in a big community. I think one thing we emphasize is a flat org structure where we believe that every person on the team is a co-founder and should be treated that way, where they can bring deals to the table, execute their own vision, and not have to go through bureaucracy to A, get access to me, and B, get access to the community. I'm trying to think of the last one. And C, I think just like have sense of urgency. Crypto is a very short, like obviously it's cycle driven, but narratives change in 3 months. I think the way I approach leadership and how we go to market is you always have 3 months to prove that you're valid or the proof that you're legit. Otherwise, the market goes to a new cycle, says a new narrative, and calls your thing like trash. The best example of this was shared sequencing, right? Shared sequencing was the hottest topic, hundreds of millions of dollars in VC money thrown. And then recently, everyone's like, "Oh wait, shared sequencing doesn't make sense," right? So I think the importance is to always have a sense of urgency across the board. You have 3 months to execute, bring your product to market, have some new innovation, build community. Otherwise, you're kind of cooked.
Yeah. All right. So be prepared to eat shit, trust your team, and a sense of urgency. Those are your 3 key takeaways. I like it.
Yep.
Especially the urgency part. I think also in our team, we see that a lot. Like, the market moves, we move. So I do think you need to be like a little bit crazy to be in crypto, but just like the really good kind of crazy. So yeah, that's, I like that advice. Before we move on to our last question, which I'm going to let you do a little bit of shilling on Movement Labs, but obviously there's a lot of narratives going on at the moment. What do you think is probably like the most overrated crypto narrative at the moment? And what is the most underrated crypto narrative at the moment?
Okay. Overrated category or trend crypto. I would say just like niche infrastructure, B2B infrastructure. I talked about shared sequencing, which I don't think makes sense as a B2B company, but there's a bunch of these like proven marketplaces, ZK teams that do a lot of B2B for infrastructure companies, which I think makes sense as like a project and a small scale team. But going to market as like, okay, we're a shared sequence company, we're a proven marketplace company, we're a B2B infrastructure company, I think that doesn't make sense because it's only like the market size is 5 to 8 rollups that really are going to drive value for your product. The rest are app specific rollups, which in theory should do well and stuff, but they're not there yet. So I think today it kind of doesn't make sense to be B2B model if you're not focused on community, focused on bringing net new users to your platform from the Web2 and retail audiences. Instead, your focus market is other rollups and infrastructure providers. I don't think that makes much sense. And an underrated category I would say is like, I know chain abstraction is really buzzword, but I think it's really important that we're able to create interfaces that can connect chains. I think there's 2 schools of thought. There's a school of thought that says, okay, fat chain thesis, you're going to have one chain that rules them all. The issue is that everyone thinks that they're a chain to rule them all. I think that we're going to be a chain to rule them all. Base thinks they're going to be a chain to rule them all. Solana thinks they're going to rule them all. So you have like 5 to 8 of these folks that think that they're going to be a chain to win. So the issue is that you have 8 infrastructure projects that all have infrastructure themselves. And now this question is how do you unify them? And right now we don't have that solution yet. So working on that.
Okay, nice. Yeah, we're also quite bullish on chain abstraction. Actually, we are invested in this project called Zion, and it's really cool what they're doing. They're also based in the U.S. actually, and I agree. I think that at the end of the day, like crypto is just way too complicated, and everyone just wants wants their money basically or wants liquidity. So whoever can make that the easiest is going to come out on top. Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's been really great talking to you about all these topics, getting to know you also better as a founder. I'm glad we also didn't go too technical. It's always nice to also get to know the person behind the project, right? But to kind of finish off the interview, you already told us a bit about Testnet. You told us about your community, but what are some other alphas that you can share with us? When is the mainnet going to happen, and how can everyone stay engaged and involved in Movement Labs?
Yeah, I would follow Twitter, Movement Labs XYZ. Follow me at Twitter, Rushi Manche. Keep up to date with the Twitter, Discord, blog, and mainnet's coming soon.
How soon?
in the coming months.
Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. Exciting. So you guys are really head down and
Yep.
getting that out. Nice.
Yep.
All right, Rushi. Well, it's been really a pleasure talking to you and getting to learn a little bit more about you. And as said, this interview was recorded, so we will be pushing it out on Spotify, Apple, basically anywhere where you can hear your podcasts. We also always write a written summary of the interview, and we host these Twitter Spaces every 2 weeks with founders in a roundtable format where we talk about an overarching topic or one-to-one, just like we did today. So thanks everyone for dialing in. I'm just going to check if we had any comments, but we don't. Just it says G-move everybody. So a lot of community.
That's what I
fans out
figured.
there. But yeah, thanks a lot, and have a great day.
Thanks so much for the time, man. Appreciate it.
Bye.